Hello and welcome to the Flow BJJ podcast. Today I have a special guest for us. I typically pre-plan out almost the entire episode, but today we're going to completely wing it. I have Miguel Benitez with us. How's it going, man?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So for those of you that don't know, Miguel is the owner of Montgomery BJJ, Tom Deblass Black Belt, and the just announced head ADCC ref for North America. Congrats, man.
Thanks, man. I think it's just America. I don't think it's North America, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I know it's America. I don't know if it's all of it or.
Even better. You're taking over, man. Between podcasts and jiu-jitsu and reffing, you're just taking over.
Yeah, it's funny because I try to downplay. Like even when like after Mo had told me and like Tom had reached out to me and told me, I was like, man, like it's not official. And then Mo announced it on his on one of his live feeds, and I was like, wow, I guess this is real. And I was watching it with my wife, and like 2 weeks later, I announced it on the podcast. And I reached out to Mo. I was like, hey, is it cool if I say this on my podcast? Like only like 20 people are going to hear it. And he goes, yeah. He goes, of course. I was like, okay. Because in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'll announce it. And then it's going to be like, nah, that's not a real thing. So I'm like super, like so weary of it.
That's crazy. So I want to definitely spend a big chunk of the episode talking about ADCC, but before we get into that, I do want to, for those of my listeners who have not heard your podcast, I've heard on the Tapping In podcast your origin story and stuff like that, but I would love for you to retell it to some of my listeners so they know who you are, what you're all about, and stuff like that. So, how did you get started in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, of course. And let me apologize in advance. My allergies are like killing me right now. So I've been like coughing. If you hear me sniffing and coughing, that's why. But yeah, so I got into jiu-jitsu. I didn't wrestle in high school. I didn't have any background in any type of grappling or martial arts. I started playing football when I was 12, and that's what I was. Like that's where I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do. Ultimately, my main goal was to, play through high school, go to college. After college, get a degree in exercise science, and then go into coaching. That's what I wanted to do. And, I was diagnosed with spina bifida when I was 14. So it was a little bit of an uphill battle with sports just because, I missed my freshman year of football. I think after like the first 3 games, I had to miss a couple weeks, and then I came back, and it was just a lot of like, physical therapy and seeing doctors and getting waivers signed so that I could actually play. And, because one of the risks was paralysis. So, I made it through high school, and I got recruited to play at the collegiate level. And I was in the middle of transferring schools, and I started falling down, and apparently I would lose all feeling in my legs, and then I couldn't stand back up.
Oh, geez.
So I would, and it happened a couple times, and then I fell in the tub, and my mom was home. So she comes she's banging on the door. She's like, "Are you okay? What's going on in there?" And I physically can't get up to open the door because my legs are completely gone. I can't feel them at all. So I'm like hitting my legs, and I'm trying to get them to wake up. And then I open the door, and of course I burst into tears because I knew exactly what it was. I was like, "This is bad," because the doctors had told me when I was like 14, this could eventually become very problematic in your future. So sure enough, went to the doctor a couple of days later. And this is 2 weeks before I went to the new school I was supposed to be. I was going to transfer to a JUCO, junior college, and try to go to a bigger school afterwards. And this was 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave. And my L5 had shifted, and my nerve canal and my spinal canal had gotten so narrow that I was basically like one really big hit away from just severing my nerves and being paralyzed, essentially. So I got a spinal fusion when I was 20 years old. My L5 and my S1 were fused up. And then, you try to do something your whole life, and you think that's what your future is going to be. And then all of a sudden it gets taken away from you at such a young age in a way that you had no no say in the way it was going to be done. Right. And that's kind of how I
Right.
felt like, I'm really big on having control of my life and control of, my destiny. So to have something like this ripped away, just, it really felt like, what was the point? Like in high school, like I didn't party. I didn't go out. I think I didn't go to like my first party until, probably like halfway through my senior year because I'd already committed. So I was like, all right, maybe now I could have a little bit of fun. I was working out in the weight room. I made a lot of choices so that I could try to pursue this. So I remember I was sitting at home about it, and I got a lot of detail about stuff that happened. You can probably listen on the podcast. I'm tapping in episode 1. I'm not going to bore everyone with it, but I was depressed and I had access to a lot of drugs. So I took advantage, and I tried to not have to feel what I was feeling anymore. And then about 2 weeks after the surgery, 2 3 weeks, I was watching Ultimate Fighter, I think, and they were doing a marathon of season 1 and season 2. I believe season 3 was coming out, and I was like, man, like I don't know if I could play football, but I could probably hit someone. Like I'm pretty sure I could go into a cage and fight. And I wasn't thinking of it like, oh, I know I could bang, but I was thinking of the sense of like, they're scared of a spinal injury, but I don't think I'll get a spinal injury if I do this. It's
Right.
not, I'm not on kickoff. I'm not like coming off the edge. Like, everything's right there in front of you. I was like, I think I could do this. So I was home alone. I had to steal my car because I wasn't allowed to drive because of the medication and my the screws and the nuts and bolts not set yet. So I got bored. I can't sit still for too long. So I got bored. I jumped in my car. I drove 2 blocks and I ended up at Ricardo Almeida Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Didn't know it was there. Didn't know where I was. I was just trying to get out of the house. I walked in and I saw all the pictures of him when he was the king of pancrase and fighting in the UFC and
Yeah.
fighting for pride, and I was like, it's just, I was like something greater was talking to me. I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I took my intro 2 days later, like 3 weeks after surgery, like major spine surgery. I was like, I'm gonna do this. And I went to my 4 week checkup and I told the doctor, I was like, hey, I took a jujitsu class. And he was like, what is wrong? By the way, shout out to Dr. David Lamb. He's still like one of my orthopedic surgeons that I go see. And he's like, something's wrong with you. Um, so he's like you're still not even fused. He's like you're still healing. He's like, if one of those bolts or one of those screws pops out, he's like do you realize the damage you can do? And I'm 20 years old. I'm like, how much worse could it be?
Yeah, at 20
So
you're invincible. So
I'm like, dude, it's not like I'm 30. I'm not old. So 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 I waited, and I had probably one of the probably one of the darkest years of my life. Was 20 to 21. Now it's the first time in my life I'm not training for a sport. I took like some classes at the local county college, and I realized like, man, like school sucks. Like it just wasn't for me. I wasn't really enjoying it, and there was always like just like, what am I doing? What am I really going to do with myself? And it was a really tough year and a half, not just for me, but for everyone around me too, who had, grown accustomed to seeing me be a certain person. And now all of a sudden I'm the exact opposite. Um, so it was January. It was actually Christmas. My mom came up to me and she's like, hey, she's like, I think you should go back to that jiu-jitsu school you had talked about after your surgery. And I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah. She goes, I'll take you. I'll go sit down with you. And I wasn't really working too much at the time. I couldn't do a lot of work because my back was still healing up, and I think I was like lifeguarding every now and then. I was just being a degenerate, to be honest. So my mom, she took me into Ricardo Almeida's. It was like 11:45 in the morning, and we signed up. And she's like, look, here's what I'm going to do for you. She's like, because you need something. She goes, I can see that you're missing something. She's like, I'll pay for the first year. She's like, I'll pay for the first year. And then after that, you got to be an adult. You got to figure this out. And I was like, yeah, sure. So she paid for the first year. I took the 12 o'clock mixed class, and then I came back and I took the 5:30 class, and then I took the 6:30 class. So my first day of jiu-jitsu, I took 3 classes. And I remember about a week later, I got my first stripe on my white belt. It was Professor Flavio Almeida had just come from Brazil, and he gave me my first stripe. And I remember just getting like choked up because it was like, okay, like this is what I do now. And that was 17 years ago. That was 16 years ago. That was January 7th, 2007, when I took my first 3 jiu-jitsu classes.
Was the first stripe sort of the moment where you came to terms with not being able to play football, or was it later on?
Oh, I don't think I've ever come to terms with that like this today. So my son is going to be playing flag football, and they have the adult league right beforehand. And I just told Steph, I was like, I think I'm going to do the adults. She's like, you're out of your mind. She's like, why are you going to put me through that? She's like, you better brace up your knees, break up your ankles, brace up. I'm like, babe, I'm the youngest guy out there. I'm like, what are they going to do? I'm like, a bunch of old dudes running around. I was like, I'm going to smoke them. But then in my head, I'm like, man, I was like, I don't know when was the last time I ran at full sprint, so we'll see. I'm like, I mean, I can't tear an ACL. I only have one ACL, so I mean, how bad could it be? I can't. What are the odds I tear the only one I have left? And I say this at my school whenever I promote people to their first stripe. I tell them the 2 biggest promotions for me, and the ones that like really meant the most, were my black belt, obviously for obvious reasons, but that first stripe, because I truly believe that when you get that first stripe, now you're officially on the journey. Now you're officially on the path. And if you don't get to black belt, it's because you chose to get off that path. You chose to quit the journey because it begun. That's your first checkpoint. That's that first mark where it's like you're now on this road and there's a black belt waiting for you. Yep. It's just your job to go get it.
100%. So at some point, obviously you're a Tom Deblass Black Belt. So how long did you train under Ricardo, and then how did it work switching over to being under Tom, and how did that all go down?
So that story in itself is like, it's a wild story. I mean, it's really not that wild. It's just kind of interesting. I did not take the most linear path. If anyone asked me like how they should pursue their jiu-jitsu career, I would say everything I did, don't do that. Like that is probably the hardest way to do it. So when I started at Ricardo's, Professor Tom was just Tom. He was a brown belt. And you got to remember, this was a time when, it was the Brazilians that were running the sport. So all the guys that you look up to now that you see on the Instagram or, ADCC, like they either weren't training at the time or they were still purple belts and brown belts. And in this area, everything came from Renzo. Renzo went to Philadelphia, then he moved to New York. And then his first batch of black belts, the Matt Serras, the John Danahers, the Ricardo Almeidas, they branched off. So training out of Ricardo's was really like training out of the source. Now, if you come down to Jersey, you can't throw a rock without hitting a jiu-jitsu school. But it all goes back to Ricardo. Somehow, everything goes back to that. So, my students say it all the time. They're like, man, how do you know all these people? I'm like, man, like, everyone came out of Ricardo's one way or another. Mm-hmm. Everyone's connected to Renzo one way or another. And when I got in, especially, we're talking almost 20 years ago, that's really when the sport started to pick up. So I was at Ricardo's, and, Tom was a brown belt, and one of his purple belts was Haz Ibrahim. And because of my size and my football background, anytime I went to competition class, I was always paired up with Haz and Tom. I was just getting beat up all the time. So Haz branched off and opened up his own academy, which would go on to become Montgomery BJJ. And, he asked me if I could help him out. He had just torn his ACL, so he was getting ACL surgery. Like literally he was having the grand opening, and he's pulling me aside like, hey, I'm getting surgery in about 6 weeks. I need someone to help me out at this new school. Oh, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, man, I'm in. I'm not a big fan of saying no. I just feel like every no is an opportunity that you wasted. And it could be something small, but you never know what that opportunity could become. Right. And you just got to crack the door open a little bit for me. If you tell me that door's cracked, I'm gonna try to knock that motherfucker open and take everything that's available for me.
Yep.
So Haz opened up Brunswick BJJ, and I went from helping him out, 2 days a week to 3 days a week to ultimately what became 5 days a week, and I became like the head assistant instructor there. At one point, almost kind of like the head instructor for a little bit, which is weird because I was only a blue belt. His career kind of took off, and he wasn't at the school as much, so I was kind of running the show. But it was all like these little things that just continued to progress and progress and progress. And the one thing that Haz didn't know was that I had already had a background in coaching. I started teaching and coaching when I was 15 years old at the local Y. I was, teaching swim lessons and coaching youth football. So I was already pretty acclimated with the idea of breaking things down and simplifying them. So very quickly he realized like, this kid might have something here. So, I was training at Ricardo's and at Brunswick, mostly at Brunswick as time went on. And then I was at Ricardo's, mostly just for the MMA training for a certain point.
Nice.
And yeah, and then once Haas, Haas handed the school over to Gary. Gary Tonin took over the school, and that became Gary Tonin Jiu-Jitsu. Now I was kind of left like, I didn't have an instructor. I know what was going on, but Haas and Tom were best friends, and Tom had always, been somebody that I learned so much from, and he was always reaching out to me, and we were always talking and training. And, right around that time, he's like, listen, man, like, you're mine now. He's like, you're my student. He's like, I've been teaching you. I've been talking to you. I've been guiding you and giving you, what you need. He's like, now you're officially mine. You're going to do it my way, and you're going to see that the sky's the limit. And I was like, say less, let's go.
That's awesome. I have not heard that before. So that's cool.
Yeah. It's kind of how that happened. Tom just kind of saw, I was like, this homeless orphan on the side of the road. And Tom was like, come here, buddy. I got a home for you. And I was like, all right.
That's pretty similar to where I was at, to be honest. I was 2 years into brown belt and went to Tom's camp in Cocoa Beach and talked to him and was like, geez, this is the situation I'm in. And he's like, all right, let's do it. You're going to be one of my affiliates. So here we go.
Yeah, it was an interesting situation too, because I had always felt, very connected with the OCBJJ guys, because I was always training down there. I was going down on Sundays to help Tom when he was, when he was fighting MMA. And I had known Tom from the Ricardo days. The first time I trained with Tom, I was a blue belt, and he tried to kill me. And I remember he like opened up his gi. This is back in the time when people were actually wearing gis. And he opened up his gi top and wrapped it around my face and just tried to suffocate me. And I didn't tap. So like 6 minutes, I didn't tap. I remember every time like I wanted to, like my face was burning. I'd fight for air, and then like I'd get out, and then he'd throw me back down and wrap my face back around his gi. And when it was over, he wasn't even out of breath. And he's like, hey, you didn't tap. And I was like, nah. He's like, why? I was like, I was uncomfortable, but it wasn't really a submission. I was like it didn't feel good. I was like, but it wasn't really a thing. So I just kind of just said, don't tap. And he went, we'll train again. But I think about that. I'm like, man, like, what if I train? And he was like, man, this kid's like a total, like just coward. And like, that could have been the end of it. But because I was willing to just suffer and die,
Yep.
It kind of resonated with him. And, I remember even when I was at Brunswick, there were times when Tom was like, I wish you lived closer to me. He's like, I'd have you coaching at my school. So it was kind of like one of those things that it never happened. And when it finally happened, it was perfect.
Yeah. No, the timing was right is what it comes down to. Everything's
100%.
Yeah. So I'm aware of some of the stories, but you, for those people of my listeners who don't know, you were Gordon Ryan's first coach.
First coach. Yeah. There was too big of a pause between there. I was like, say coach, Hayden.
How did that happen? And two, give me your best Gordon Ryan story.
So, that happened the way any normal student happens, right? And this is why I'm a big believer of, whether it's a 5-year-old walking in for the kids class, or, a 50-year-old walking in for his first basic class, or the waiter or the janitor. I truly believe you have to treat people with respect and care, because you don't know who that person might become tomorrow, or you don't know who that person is today. It's something that I've always been, and I think it's in part because I feel like my whole career, my whole life, I've always been overlooked. Even with football, I always felt like I got overlooked by the bigger schools, and I was like, well, what, I'm gonna show them that I should be there. I've just always had that chip on my shoulder, like, man, like no one's looking at me. Like even like before this podcast, like, you were talking about like, I got the podcast, I'm the Tom Deblass Black Belt, ADCC. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, but nobody knows who I am. And like, if it, it's a little bit of a chip on my shoulder where I'm like, I'm going to remind these motherfuckers who I am.
Yeah.
But, it's just the way I am. So
it's always wanting just a little bit more. And that's what makes people successful, to be driven. So it's never enough, Yeah,
it's never enough. I'm always looking for the next thing. Like I remember when the school hit a certain number, my wife was like, are you happy with that number? And I was like, no, because it's not this. She's right. Like, when will you be happy? I was like, Never, babe. I was like, I'm happy. I'm not content.
Yeah.
But as for Gordon, he just walked in like a typical student. He was this 14-year-old kid. He walked in. I met his mom first, Trish. Trish came in. She's like, I got my son. My son's name is Gordon. He's getting into all these fights with these kids at school. He's coming home with all this money. And I'm like, Gordon, where you getting this money from? I'm thinking he's selling drugs. And what Gordon was doing is he was having like fight clubs. He was he was like a high school freshman. And his mom was like Trish was scared. She thought for sure, like, my son's going to jail. And I think what happened was, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is what it was. It was like he beat up some kid. Like it was like non-sanctioned backyard brawls. He like choked some kid out. Then like after beating up all the kids his grade, they're like, "Oh, you should fight his brother." And then he like choked out the kid's brother, and they're like, I think he like beat up some kid's dad or uncle. Like some grown man got his ass beat by this kid. So away I'm like,
so he's like hustling people for money, but with fights, basically.
Yeah, he's like the jiu-jitsu Kimbo Slice, but he's like 14. So right away I'm like, yo, bring this kid in. This kid needs an ass beating, and this is the place where he's gonna get it. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna bring him in. So she opens. She's like, Gordon, get in here. Here comes this kid. Like, you remember the movie The Little Giants?
Yes.
Like, Spike. Like, Spike don't play with girls. It was Spike, fully grown. This kid gets out of the car, no shirt, like red Nike shorts, Jordan flip flops with socks on, ripped. He's got like an 18-inch mohawk, and he's shredded. Like this kid is, and not like a skinny kid with abs. Like no, he is ripped. I'm like, man, like where's USADA when you need him? Like this kid is on something. He's like, what's up? And I'm like, what's going on, man? I was like, Coach Miguel. And he's like, yeah, what's up? I think I want to start learning some jiu-jitsu. I was like, awesome. And, from day one, he showed up and, he had a little bit of an ego. Naturally, he thought he knew everything. But, when he got his second stripe, we started rolling live. And within 10 seconds, because I'm training with him like he's a child, he throws up a legitimate armbar. Like full guard, throws his leg over because he already had very long limbs. That's the thing. Like, Gordon has the perfect body for jiu-jitsu. Like that long, like, small frame, long arms, long legs, yeah. Hajar, Buchecha, Gordon, even like, Felipe Pena, like they've all got the, Nicky Rod, they all have that body type, right?
Yeah.
So he throws up this armbar, and I see Haas at the desk, and Haas makes this face like, you better not get tapped by this 14-year-old kid. So I just proceed to beat the living shit out of him. Like, I was like, you know what? You're not a child anymore at this point. So we knew early on that there was something, there. He had some potential. But, very quickly he started, and the teens program back then, I was a 23, 24-year-old guy. I would set up the classes like ADCC rounds. So we would do ADCC rounds where I would have two guys come into the middle, and then everybody else in class would watch, and I would have two of the students in class coach. So I'd be like, Jimmy, you coach Mike, and then, Charlie, you coach Gordon. And I'd be like 3 minutes, no points, 3 minutes points or something like that, just to, get them used to it.
Yep.
And for my own amusement too. So after a while, he was always there, always showing up. Then he started bringing Nicky with him, his little brother. And then Nicky started beating up some of the bigger kids. And, then Gordon started taking the adult class. And I'll tell you what, he never shied away from hard training. He would always want to learn. He wanted to compete, and he showed up and did everything the right way. And you kind of realize very quickly, like if he applies this all the way through, he could make it to the next level. And I remember having a conversation with him, and I've shared this story, 100 times. He was probably like 15 or 16, and we were sitting down. One of those, ever important and ever life-changing post-training conversations that you have in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, those are the best.
They're the best, man, because you just beat each other up for 30, 40, an hour, and there's no fluff, there's no bullshit, there's no so how's work, how are the kids, like there
Right.
is none of that. It's like let's get into the hot and heavy right now.
Yep.
And it was myself, him, Don Odgers, another Gary Totem black belt, and I believe Matt Broad was there too. And I was like, Gordon, what are you trying to accomplish in this sport? And he like looked at me, and I was like, no bullshit. I was like, no one's gonna laugh. I want the honest answer. Like, what is your ultimate goal with this sport? And he didn't hesitate. He said, I want to be the best that ever did it. And I was like, you know what, kid? You can be. I said, I'm not going to say that you will be, but I'm going to say you can be. My advice to you, don't get a girlfriend and fall in love. Stay out of your own way and just understand that you're going to suffer before you succeed in this sport. But if you do everything the right way, you'll spend the rest of your life living like a champion.
Yep. He's done. He's done that.
Yeah, he's doing all right for himself.
Yeah, he's
doing
okay. He's decent.
He's all right. He's good. Yeah, he's got a couple DVDs out there, I heard. So.
Yeah. Seems like he's got a, he could be something someday.
Man, he's great. I was just talking to him the other day. ADCC is going to be in Dallas, and I was like, listen, man, like if I get down there a couple days early, let's do something. He's like, bro, come down. He's like, get in a couple days early, we'll hang out. I was like, sure. I was like, you know what, that'll be fantastic. I love the kid. Gordon actually caught the garter at my wedding.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a true story. That is a true story. 17-year-old Gordon. It was a mess. But I love him. I love him. It's more than a friendship. It's just, he's someone that I've known for such a young age, and I've seen so much of his growth, not just on the mat, but off the mat as a man, as a businessman, as a competitor, as a mogul in the jiu-jitsu world. And, for me, if he lost everything tomorrow, it wouldn't change my relationship with him. He's always going to be someone that I have a very special connection with, just because of we met each other at, very, very early points in our life. And I love the kid, and I'm so happy for all his success.
It's not just his success, but he's pushed the entire sport to new heights that I don't think could have happened without him. You know what I mean?
Well, I completely agree, and I've shared this thought with people before. What this sport needed was two things. It needed Mo Jassam's innovation. It needed someone with that idea. It needed someone who was ready to take the sport and think outside the box and say, hey, let's stop doing this in high school gymnasiums.
Right.
Like, if we're going to be the best, let's be the best. And it needed a star. It needed a bona fide star. And the one thing we do in America better than any other country is we turn our sports stars into heroes. We turn them into gods. No other country does it the way we do.
Right.
So now you take a sport like jiu-jitsu that, it's still a very niche sport, still picking up steam, but now you put the best in the world. You advertise this guy as the best. You have the Thomas and Mack Arena, Las Vegas. You've got celebrities in the stands, 13,000 people, and you have this good-looking 6'3", 230, 225-pound Adonis, just chiseled, coming out. The kid's got the look, he's got the personality, and then he puts the attributes behind it.
Yep.
That's the star the sport needed. So now you take someone like Mo, who took the sport to another level as far as like, we're going to give you pyros, we're going to give you everything that all the big sports have. And then you bring in a star like Gordon. And that's what it needed. That's what's going to take it to the next level. But now it's, they've created a path now, right? So now all these young guys coming up, it's like there's a path to become a superstar, but you got to follow it. There is a blueprint laid out. Number one is win, and number two is understand the importance of, creating a brand for yourself. And, the brand is almost as important as being able to win.
Yeah. Well, I think Gordon has blazed the path so well that it's significantly easier for anyone going forward to become a superstar than it was for him, because the hard work's already been done. Now, like you said, you just need to win and build a brand.
Got to build the brand.
Yeah. That's something that I feel like Tom has done an amazing job with, is building a brand. I mean, obviously he has incredible accomplishments in combat sports too, but his ability to build a brand and a following is far exceeded his combat sports accolades. I guess I can't think of a good way to put that, but he's just doing it right, you know?
Well, you know what it is too. And here's the thing with Tom is, you know, I said earlier, like if I see a crack in a door, I'm going to kick it open. Tom's the same way with trends in business. So, you know, there was a time where people were making fun of Tom for posting on Instagram. And we're talking like 15 years ago. And he's like, you guys all laugh at me now. He's like, just wait. He's like, when people know my name and not yours.
Right.
And he really did become one. And I've told him to this. I've said this to him. I was like, Tom, all these kids you see on Instagram posting their NAGA medals and their highlight reels. I was like, that's your fault. I was like, you created this social media influencer. And the difference is Tom had the accolades, right? He's a 3-time ADCC trials winner. He's a Mundial's world champion, no-gi world champion, Pan American brown belt gi champion, U.S. national. Like, he's done it, right? You know, UFC veteran, Bellator veteran. Like, the guy's done it.
Right.
So he's got the resume to go with it, where now when you're watching his videos, you're not like, oh, this guy's full of shit. Like, no, this guy's done it. He's done it. So now you're already listening to him. So he's already got your attention based on the fact that he's a reliable source in whatever he's talking about.
Right.
But then he starts bringing in his personality and, you know, the differences in his personality. You know, Tom's the type of guy who say, hey, you know, be kind to people, be gentle to people, but kick a motherfucker's teeth out if they talk shit. It's like, whoa, like what is going on right now? Yeah. You know, but if I say that, he'll yell at me. He'll be like, bro, you can't be saying that online. You can't be telling people that. So he's done such a good job of using his accolades to get your attention. And then it's like, hey, while you're here, let me tell you something. And he's really developed such a good brand. Like, you know, Tom Deblass is a brand in itself at this point.
Yep.
And you know, it's a very lucrative brand. So, you know, I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this as well. I've had people that have signed up at my school simply because here's how people train jiu-jitsu, right? You find out you want to train jiu-jitsu, you're watching MMA, you're hearing about it, you see Instagram, whatever it might be. And then you're either going to research yourself or you are going to reach out to a friend or someone you know who trains jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And that person is going to help you find a school. I can't tell you how many people have come to my school and said, yeah, I reached out to my buddy, I reached out to my cousin, I reached out to my brother, my brother-in-law, my sister, and they said, hey, there's a Tom Deblass school in your town. Stop looking anywhere else.
Right. No, I've come across the same thing. So in the summertime in Maine, we get a lot of people that are, you know, visiting the area, and there's not a ton of schools in Maine, so it's a pretty fair distance driving between different schools. But I've had people drive an hour and a half while on vacation just to come train at my school because it's a Tom Deblass school instead of some other guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, and now your school produces world champions. So congratulations to that, my man.
Thank you, man.
Huge accomplishment.
Yes. Which leads me to my next question. Perfect segue. So
see, I know what I'm doing, dude.
Yeah. You've done this before, I feel like. So you've got some very talented competitors at your school as well. So the question I had written down, I have a feeling it's pretty similar to my points, but what are your expectations when someone says, I want to be a competitor, I want to compete? What do you expect out of those people?
I expect two things. And it's very simple. The first thing I expect, show up. The second thing I expect, shut up. Show up and shut up. That's it. If you tell me you want to compete, you want to be a world champ, the first thing you have to do is you have to be here. The next thing is, like, don't bitch, don't complain. Like, it's not supposed to be fun. It's going to suck. Like, winning isn't easy. Like, these championships are not reserved for everyone. They're reserved for the elite. They're reserved for special people. There's a reason why, you know, I'm not a world champ. You know, it's an elite group that gets to it. And you've got to put, you know, talent will only get you so far. Just hard work will only get you so far. You've got to be coachable. And that's something Tom talks about all the time. He says the difference between a world champion and someone who's coming in second or third is how coachable are you? How do you listen in your matches? You know, Jaden Jaden, one of Tom's brown belts, I forget what, I think her rank is like 7th or 8th right now, world champ, listens so well. Where if you watch her matches and listen to Tom's commentary in the background, Tom's coaching in the background, it's almost like a video game.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be. It should be like a cheat code. So that's what I expect from my students. Show up and shut up. Just understand that this is the grind. This sucks. And if you don't like what I'm telling you to do, you don't like what I'm telling you, like, you chose this. You asked for it. You said this is what you want to do.
Right. And you can change your mind at any time. There's the door.
Yeah. Yeah, you can change your mind. Exactly. Or even just be like, you know what, I don't want to compete. This isn't for me.
Right.
No problem. But now you can still be an asset. You can still help your other teammates get better. And that's the one thing I push at my school too. I say it all the time. Like, if you're only here to make yourself better, just leave. Don't come back. I don't want selfish students. I don't want students that are only here trying to win their rounds and win their matches and brag in the locker room like, I passed so-and-so's guard today. It's like, who gives a shit? No one cares.
Right.
Who did you make better today? Who did you help today? Did you hang out with that brand new white belt and teach him how to tie his belt? That means a lot to me. That's what goes far with me. But if you want to compete, that's it. And then, of course, for my serious competitors, we're talking the ones that really want to take that next step. Not just the guys that want to do local events. You got to go down to Tom's. It's something that we have available to us. It's something we can take advantage of. Why not? Make the trip down to Ocean County. Max Greenberg runs my kids program, one of my blue belts. He goes down to Tom's twice a week. Manny Pereira is another one. He goes down to Tom's once a week, just because of schedules. And then, I'll sit with Tom and he'll tell me what he's seen, and I'll tell him some of the things that I see, and then we work on those things. And, when they're with me, we work over the stuff that, Tom might see some holes in his games, or things that I've noticed are holes in their game, or things that they're telling me they're having a hard time with some of the guys down there, and we just work. So, they get that atmosphere of being at Ocean County and learning from Tom and the way he gets his competitors ready. And then they really do get very individualized personal attention when they come back to Montgomery. Like Max is at the school 7 days a week. He trains 7 days a week, this kid. So, I've got him 4 days a week. Manny, same thing. So we're always breaking things down and dissecting things, and then it's like, all right, let's see how this works. Let's see how that works. And just, it's a nice little marriage that we got going on, and I'm very happy with the results so far.
That's
still a lot of work to be done. But
it gets harder the higher you go, like exponentially harder too.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty similar to the process that I'm trying to do with my two girls, is send them to Tom's, get some hard training in, get some holes exposed in your game. And Tom is very good about, even far above and beyond what I expected. He'll record their matches rolling with Jaden or whoever, send them to me, say, hey, they need to work on XYZ when they get home. And then they come home and we hit that, like you say, 6 or 7 days a week. We're at the gym specifically working to fix holes.
Yeah, absolutely. And thing is too, it's holes you're not going to see when they're only training at home base, right?
Right.
That's what they're going to get away with. It's what's going to happen when you put them with someone else who's high level. And and listen, like, here's the thing: there's a lot of people that claim to be high level that are liars. And they're not putting in the work. Like, especially here in Jersey, you can't pay a girl to go to Ocean County and train with Jaden.
Right.
You can't do it. You literally cannot find a girl to go to Ocean County and say, I'll go against Jaden. They avoid it like the plague.
Yeah.
Avoid it like the plague. It's actually like laughable.
There's like with some quote unquote competitors, there's a serious lack of grit, I feel like, or toughness, or whatever word you want to call it.
Listen, that's the world we live in right now, because you could just post the 10 seconds of your match that you looked good, put that on your Instagram and be like, yeah, I went out there and did my thing this weekend.
Yeah.
I didn't win, but I showed everybody what's up. First of all, you're a blue belt. Second of all, that was the only 10 seconds of the match that you were ever in a good position.
Exactly.
It's so easy And this is my whole thing right now. We live in a world where everyone's an illusionist, and then the illusion leads to delusion. You've gotten so good at tricking everyone into believing that you're this great thing that eventually you start to believe it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the illusion becomes a delusion, especially when it's all your friends on Instagram or Facebook, like, yeah, you're the man. Yo, my boy's a killer. Oh my God, bro. You're sure. It's like, you don't even know what you're looking at, dum dum.
Right.
You don't even know what you're looking at.
Exactly.
It's the world we live in right now. I'm such an old man right now. I'm like turning into that old guy right now. Where I'm like, these youngsters today. Back in my day, you had to win mundials for people to know who you were.
It's true though, and not just jiu-jitsu. Your entire life on social media you can make it look however you want.
Oh man,
it's terrible.
It's terrible, but I mean, in a lot of ways, if you use it the right way, it can be great. Like you look at someone like Tom; he's done it the right way.
Yes.
I have a very love-hate relationship with social media. If anyone follows me at Prof Miguel _BJJ, you'll see like I'll have like a month where I'm just like posting. I'll do like the inspirational videos, the motivational videos, which I'm going to be honest with you, they're just random thoughts that I have for myself that I'm like, I'm going to share this and maybe this might help someone for today. And then I just stopped posting entirely because I feel like I've just given way too much of myself to people for free. And I don't mean for free like monetarily. I mean in the sense that you haven't gotten to know me. You haven't earned anything from me for me to just be like, hey, let me help. Like it's like that weird, like invisible, that fourth wall. I have a hard time breaking it sometimes.
Yep.
Tom does a really good job of, just wearing his heart on his sleeve, putting it all out there. I can put it all out there, but then I get to a point where I'm like, you know what? I think you got enough.
Yeah.
So I just kind of reel it back.
I'm a fan of the quick taps that you started doing, the like 5 to 15 minute long quick.
Yeah, I got to get back to those.
I really like those.
Get back to doing those.
After I listened to the first one, I'm like, oh man, that's a great idea. I need to do that. It's phenomenal because I love, with any podcast, I love the full length episodes, that are an hour or 2 hours long or whatever. But sometimes those like 5 to 15 minute long videos with some, pretty serious condensed thoughts on one specific subject, I feel like can be really beneficial for someone. Especially if they're scrolling through a bunch of those and they see a subject that fits what they're needing or going through at the moment. I feel like that's useful.
Yeah, well, the thing I like about quick taps too is like, I don't have to sit down with Roy. It's not. I can literally just set up the camera. I can set up the microphone, and it takes me about 10 minutes to edit it because it's just a quick 15-minute conversation with myself about something that's brand new, very relative, something that just came up. I'm probably going to do one this week about the whole Mika Galvao situation because it's like people want to talk about, like, everyone's acting like they're so shocked. It's like, no, like this is jiu-jitsu. Like there's no rules against taking steroids. Right. Like even the IBJJF ones, like it's kind of like a joke. Like everyone's on it. Like stop being like a little kid watching WWE in the 90s and thinking that Hulk Hogan just took his vitamins and said his prayers. Exactly. No, there's a lot of juice. The juice is loose. It is, yeah. Acai and prayers, man. Everybody, like, there's a lot of sick people train jiu-jitsu and they need vitamin T. Like, it's okay.
Right.
Like, stop getting upset.
Even at 20 years old or however old Mika is.
Oh my God, dude. 20 or 19, 20, something crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you like them, man. I'm glad you said that too, because I haven't done one in a while. It's like I think that's the driving force. I'm like, damn, maybe I should go.
Nice.
That's the thing too. Sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to myself. I'm like, people don't give a shit what I got to say, and I just stop. And I'm like, maybe I should keep saying it.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the same boat when I look at like the listener count of episodes. I'm like, is this worth doing? But it's as much for me as it is for them, if I'm being honest with myself.
Yeah, my thing isn't. It's not even so much the listener count. It's just sometimes I feel a little pretentious, thinking that like my opinion matters.
Yes. And
like it's kind of like, why should anyone actually listen to me? I deal with a lot of imposter syndrome. Yep. A lot of people say that it comes off as like me being humble and modest. It's like, no, it's literally it's imposter syndrome. And my wife helps me a lot with that. Where she's like, you say you didn't do anything to earn this, or you say you don't deserve that. She goes, but clearly you're doing something where every time you do something, it works out. She's like, so it maybe is you. And I'm like, maybe, but that's what therapy's for, right?
Right. All right. So let's get into ADCCs.
Yeah, let's go.
How?
What was that? What was that? What was that? I
I
thought
don't
it was
know.
that.
Something.
Is that like a?
Rattled all the microphones on this table.
I thought it was like I thought it was like a transitionary sound, like ADCC. Boom. I'm like,
Gong.
oh, new topic time.
So, how did that all come about? You becoming first, you're reffing the trials, and then you're reffing
Oh man,
West Coast trials and 80. Like, fill me in on that whole process.
So that whole process is like I basically stepped in shit, and when I lifted up my foot, it was covered in gold. Um, and it's also just me being annoying and just like staying in people's ear.
Yep.
So the way it came to be is honestly like, shout out to COVID, because otherwise it would have never happened. For the East Coast trials, we couldn't get the refs from Finland, like the official ADCC refs, to get over here because of like visas and travel limitations. So, and again, who runs East Coast trials? Tom Deblass. Tom runs the East Coast trials. So I got a phone call from Tom probably like 2 nights before. He's like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I was like, I don't know. He's like, you're not doing shit this weekend. Here's what you're doing. He's like, I need like 8 of your students to help out with ADCC. I was like, yeah, man, whatever you need. What do you need? He goes, I need guys selling shirts. I need guys taking tickets. I need guys getting the athletes to the mats. Like, I need them working. I need them fucking working. And I was like, sure. He goes, and I need you to ref. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, you need me to ref what? He's like, ref the matches. I was like ADCC matches? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right. He's like, it's not hard. Relax. He's like, just make sure they don't go out of bounds. And, when they tap, make sure they stop them. That's it. It's not hard. You'll be fine at it. And I was like, he's like, jiu-jitsu. You've competed. You know what the fuck you're looking at. I was like, all right, sure, no problem.
So this is with 48 hours notice.
Oh yeah, it was like there was there was not much notice. Listen, the one thing, and Tom will tell you this: when Uncle Tom gives me a call, the answer is yes.
Yeah,
I've never said no to that guy. So Tom calls me up. I never say no to the guy. I always show up, whatever he needs. So I'm literally like, I couldn't get there Friday night for the rules seminar. And Tom was like, look, there's a YouTube video, just watch the YouTube video. So I'm watching the YouTube video like all night. I'm literally driving down to AC, watching it. And I know the ADCC rules, but I want to make sure, like, I never want to do something and mess it up. Number one, I don't want to look bad. Number two, I don't want to make my coach and my friend look bad. Like, that's the last thing I want to do. So get out there, and one of my first matches, the kid loses to a heel hook, and he does like one of those like quick little Brazilian taps, like a little tap, and then he acts like he didn't do it, and I called it. I was like, tap, 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 tap. And he's like, I didn't tap. I was like, dude, you tapped. He's like, I didn't tap. And I was like, you tapped. And now, like, this is like my first or second match, and I'm like, holy shit, did he not tap? So I reset them, and I was like, listen, I saw you tap. I was like, maybe you didn't mean to, but you tapped. And now he's talking. I go to the middle. I raise the other guy's arm. And I'm like, listen, man, like, go talk to the guys that put this together. So right away, I'm like, they're not going to ask me to ever do this again. I was like, I shit the bed. So as I'm walking to the table, I see Gordon, and Gordon's like, bro, he tapped. I was like, he did tap. He goes, yeah, I saw it from here. And then that was like, yeah, he totally tapped. I was like, okay, all right. Like, I think, all right, I'm not completely messing this up. And so then I just start reffing, and I'm just wrecking my ass off, and I'm reffing as many matches as I can, and I'm running around, I'm sliding, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it was a fantastic experience. I had so much fun doing it. I was so excited that I got to, like, ref ADCC trials, which up to that point, the East Coast trials were the biggest trials ever. I think it was like 450 competitors. So to me, it was just such an honor and a privilege to have been affiliated with ADCC at least that one time. So next thing I know, a couple months go by, and I get a message from Tom. He's like, "Hey, are you able to go to Vegas for West Coast Trials?" I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" I'm thinking like he wanted me to like come so we could like hang out or whatever. He's like, "Mo's gonna ask you to ref the West Coast Trials." I was like, "Oh shit!" So get a message from Mo. Mo's like, "Hey, loved what you did at the East Coast Trials." He's like, "That's what I want out of an ADCC ref." He's like, "I want guys that are going to be firm with their decisions, know what they're doing, and are going to be on top of the action." He's like, "You were on the action." He goes, "That's what I want." I was like, "Perfect." So now I'm super excited. I'm like, "Holy shit, I'm going to do West Coast Trials." Now I'm so excited. But now, and this is how my brain works. Now I'm like, okay, East Coast was out of necessity. West Coast, I'm getting invited. Now I'm thinking, this is an audition.
Yeah.
And when I was in high school, I had a football coach tell me when I told him I wanted to play in college, and he's like, "You got to put it on tape." He's like, "As long as you put it on tape, you can't be denied. It has to be on tape." So I've always lived with that mentality of like, people can overlook you as much as they want. If you keep putting it on tape, eventually it's going to get seen. And you just got to keep putting it out there. So I was like, I'm going to put it on fucking tape this weekend. So I went to Vegas. Saturday night, Gary was hitting me up. He's like, "Hey, man, you trying to go out?" And I was like, "No, I can't, Gary. I got a ref tomorrow." He's like, "You're really going to stay in the hotel room?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "This is a business trip." So we get there. I get there Friday. I'm sorry, no, I got there early because we had the Open on, no, I'm sorry, that was for us. So yeah, I got there on like Thursday or Friday, and West Coast Trials was that Saturday, Sunday. So we get there that Saturday, and Mo had invited, I want to say from the East Coast Trials, maybe like eight or 10 refs from the East Coast Trials to Vegas. So I went from being one of many to one of 10 that got invited now. This wasn't out of necessity. This was invitation. So I'm already super excited. So they bring us all around. They're like, "Hey, guys, we got 8 mats going. There's going to be a lot of matches." They had, I believe it was 1,200 competitors registered for the West Coast Trials. So this is already, I think like 2 divisions got filled. So we're talking 256 competitors for 2 divisions. They're like, it's sold out.
Oh my gosh.
So like you're going to learn, like you're going to learn today. So they tell us we don't have enough refs to put 2 refs at every mat. They said 2 mats are only going to have 1 ref. I shoot my hand up and I said, "I'll take one of those mats." And they're like, "You sure?" I was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. I want to make sure everyone's good. I'll ref by myself." So they had 1 ref floating, and it was one of the guys from 5 Grappling. He's like, "Listen, man, like if you need help, just lift your hand up. I'll come over and give you a break." I was like, "Don't worry, dude." I was like, "I'll let you know if I need anything." But in my head, all I'm thinking is, put it on tape.
Yep.
Just put it on tape. Because I'm thinking if I have a mat and I'm the only one at that mat, I'm going to have, close to 100 matches. And if I have 100 matches, something's got to happen that's going to get someone's attention and say, "This kid knows what he's doing." I'm not a kid. I'm a grown man. Like, this guy knows what he's doing. So I'm reffing. I took 3 20-minute breaks on that day, that first day. I ref from, I think we started at like 8:45 in the morning, and we were going till about 7:30 at night. And I had 3 20-minute breaks.
Wow.
And yeah, I just refed my ass off. And not because they ran me or anything, but like I chose to do all that time on those mats. I didn't want to, and I wasn't, I wasn't into the fanfare. I wasn't trying to meet all these people and all that. I was like, I'm just going to ref. I'm just going to ref. Then we get the next day. And then, of course, the next day in the quarterfinals, I get, Andrew Tackett and Damian Anderson's match.
That's the match I was going to ask you about specifically. We, since Andrew Tackett's been up here twice now to Maine, we have some pretty serious Tackett fans. And that match was incredible.
So quick little story. And I love the Tacketts. They're all fantastic, fantastic kids. They're raised very well by their parents. Like, they're just super respectful. But I think I had Andrew's first match, and he actually won where he gets like, he's got like your back and he puts like the arm, almost like a one-handed Kimura behind the arm that he likes to do.
Yep.
So he gets the tap, and then he doesn't let go, and he's like flexing and celebrating, and I'm like tap. So finally, like, rip his hand. I'm like, let go. So as I raise his hand, like, I don't know if you can see in the film, but like, as I'm raising his hand, like, I'm talking to him. I'm like, dude, when I tell you to let go, let go. And he's like, sorry. So when the match is over, I'm like, look at me. You had a great win. I know you're all pumped up with the drums, like, but now everyone just thinks you're an asshole because this kid's tapping and you're flexing. I was like, you're better than that. And then, like, he went up the match. So later in the day, he's like, hey, I'm really sorry for it. And I was like, it's all right, kid. I was like, just when I tell you to stop, like, let go. Like, you got to fucking let go. Right. That was my first interaction with Andrew Tackett. I don't even know if he remembers it. Like, it was like me, like, yelling at him like a child, like, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. So, but then he was super respectful afterward. Great kid. But his match with Damien, a lot of hype going into that match because, these were, they're two up-and-comers. And, of course, like, I got a little bit of history with Damien because, he used to be under Gary. I've known him since he was coming up. So for me, it was also a test, like, to show, like, hey, like, even though, like, I'm friends with Gordon and Gary and they've got their whole thing going on with these guys, like, I'm gonna call this match fair. Like, I don't give a shit. And I actually gave the match to Damien. Like, when we got to the end, we had to make a decision. The judges gave their rule and then I gave my rule. I was like, listen, I'm giving it to Damien. So, it was an opportunity for me to be fair and show that, like, I can put away the politics and put away personal feelings. Like, this is a job that we got to do. And I would never let my personal connections with other people, like screw someone out of something they've been working towards, right? That match was absolutely wild. I think I had to stop them at one point because they started clubbing each other and they started slapping each other. I was like, listen, if you guys want gloves, like, we can do that. But, like, not right now. Like, this is jiu-jitsu. Like, settle down, guys. Goes, and then here's the thing about that match, and I really want to make this clear because I love reading the comments for the people that saw the match because they're all like, some people know ADCC rules, some people really don't. So we were told, like, clearly, like, let the matches go out of bounds. Like, unless, like, if they're in a position and it's going, let the position go. And people forget that I had one of Maggie Grandotti's matches that went from mat, like, all the way from the left side, mat 3, all the way to center mat on a takedown. Nobody ever brings that up.
Or somebody, yeah.
Oh, I can't remember who it was, but I remember it was Maggie. But like there's a video of me, like, sprinting, and I remember hearing Mo and Gordon screaming, "Let it go," because the mats were clear, and as a ref, you should always know what's going on with the mats around you. Like, know what's going on in front of you, but then know where the match is behind you. That way, in a pinch, like, all right, I've got room. Like, if it's an 8-foot mat, but they're at the far end of the mat, it's like, I got 15 feet. You got to know what you're playing with, right? So we were told, let them go out of bounds. Now, with ADCC, you can't reset them if they're not in a position you can't reset them in. Right? We're not just going to be like, okay, Damien's got one hook in, Tackett's defending, stop, reset, let's bring it back to the feet. Absolutely not.
Right.
Exactly. Absolutely not. Because, Andrew's one move away from potentially getting a sweep or getting on top. Okay, you might not get points, but now you've got a better position. And Damien is one hook away from getting back points. And this match was already in overtime. So points kick in right away. So when people are like, reset them, there were so many things at that moment in that match that they could not be reset. So all I remember was, and it's 100% Andrew Tackett's fault, Damien had the single leg, and Damien was trying to kick the leg out of the way and put Tackett on his back, right? However, if you watch the match, I positioned myself in place for that potential takedown. But then, like, Andrew Tackett, like, turns his knee down and tries to dive towards the table to pull out his leg. But Damien follows him, and now they're going the exact opposite way of where I was. So I'm thinking, these guys are in a scramble. There's a live position going. It's not like someone just landed or no, they are in it. And I just started screaming, "Get the fuck out the way. Like, everybody move, everybody move." And I'm pretty sure I'm the person who like disconnected the flow feed because I just started grabbing wires and throwing shit. But if you watch it too, it wasn't just me. You can see how well we were trained for that moment and knowing what they wanted. Knowing what ADCC wanted. Because if you watch Classy and Jay and even Fernando, as soon as they go out of bounds, they stand up and go to the action. They knew right away, this has to keep going.
Yes.
You can't stop and reset this position. So naturally, because I'm the ref and I'm the one screaming, by the way, I saw the best meme. Someone like took that scene, but then instead of like me, they played Ludacris, move, bitch, get out the way. That was probably my favorite one. I was like, that's fantastic. It was like all grappling matches. ADCC move. I was like, this is great. But
that's a great rule, by the way. That's how it should be, in my opinion.
That's how it should be. And you know, there's so many examples of that. You can look up, one of my teammates, Garrett Lavage's match at the East Coast Trials from 2019, I believe, or 2018 against Jay-Z Cavalcante. He's going for a rear naked choke on the basketball court. Like, they're well off the mats.
Yeah.
You know, this is not something that's new or unique to me. It just happened to be at a very high profile match at the biggest West Coast Trials of all time, and all eyes were on that match. So, you know, that I really think that match is the reason why I got invited to Worlds. So, you know, Damien gets that match, and yeah, that was a wild experience. But if you watch that table, as soon as they go out of bounds, everybody else stands up and goes to the match. You know, the judges did a great job with that one too. They were following the action.
Anybody that complains about that decision, though, I mean, that match was so razor close that there's no way to complain about a decision in either direction on that match.
Well, I'll tell you another thing too. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but they were given the option of doing a second overtime.
I had heard that from somewhere, probably from you.
Yeah, they were given the option to do a second overtime, and both guys agreed to just go to the decision. And I was like, well, here comes the decision then.
Would that have weighed differently if one of the guys wanted to keep going and the other one said no?
No. It was like if Andrew Tackett would have been like, yeah, let's do another overtime, and Jamie was like, nah, I'm done. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Clearly you think you did enough, and then it would have been judged accordingly. But you know, they both agreed. I mean, that was a war. That was a war. They went at it. It was a great match.
That was a phenomenal match.
Yeah, and I had the best seat in the house, so that was awesome.
I feel like another reason I like the fact that it can go out of bounds in ADCC is one of the things I hate about IBJJF and other competitions is competitors using like the edge of out of bounds strategically to avoid like takedowns and stuff like that. And if you do that in ADCC, you're just going to get taken down on the cement instead.
Well, yeah, and I feel the same way about like EBI rules, right? I think any rule set that can allow for stalling to be used as a tactic, there's a problem. And now, speaking from the business aspect, you know, ADCC just signed a big contract with UFC Fight Pass, right? So you're trying to draw the sport, you're trying to get attention, you're trying to get eyes to watch this. And UFC Fight Pass is, you know, they do their own, you know, UFC Fight Pass, you know, grappling events, correct? ADCC rules is the most exciting rule set.
By far, yes.
Hands down. You get penalized for not moving. You get penalized for pulling guard. You get 3 minutes where there's no points. So guys are going as nuts as they want, guys and girls. You know, like some of the female matches that I had were probably like some of the best matches I've ever ref. You know, I got to ref Fionn Davies, and Fionn, man, you want to talk about looking in someone's eyes, and you can see that they are like. She looked like she was so ready to go that she looked like she was about to burst into tears at any given moment. Yeah. Like, and not because it was just this passion. Like, I remember when I raised her hand and she was like, I fucking knew it. I was like, yo, I was like, this is someone who I became such a Fionn Davies after I got to ref her matches. But
I remember her, like, because I thought I had the best seat in the house at ADCC because I sat in the front row both days. You had an even better seat, but I remember seeing her like getting ready to step on the mat, and she looked possessed, like rocking back and forth, slapping her quad, slapping her face, like she was ready to annihilate whoever was across the mat from her.
And listen, and you know, people do that stuff all the time, right? You can tell when someone's doing it for show, but when she was doing that, I was like, this is an animal that's been let out the cage.
Yeah.
I was like, she is ready for this moment. She was living in the moment, and I'm glad I got to be there for that. There's a raw energy, being, and I've been a competitor, so I know how it feels in there, but this was different. Like when you're reffing, it's like it's a very different energy, but it's still the same. I can feel, like, I knew how I felt when I was competing, but now being in the middle as a ref, like, you can feel both of their energies. You can feel both competitors' energy. You're like, it's like seeing two dogs like just yelling at each other, and you're like, man, this can go really bad very quickly, and I just gotta make sure it stays in control. But
and then add 13,000 people screaming and cheering too,
man,
which
let me
they're
tell you
not
something.
used to.
So that was a game changer for everyone, and in part, and I shared this with Miguel Figueroa, one of Tom's brown belts. We were the first refs ever to referee ADCC Worlds with 1 year or less experience, like ever.
Wow.
So we got moved up super, super quick, which, a lot of the guys were super nice about it, super cool to us. And it kind of hit home, like, we're eating the dinner that they had catered for us, and we're upstairs and all the athletes are there, and we're hanging out with the other refs. And some of the refs are like, yeah, I've reffed all the trials. I've done this, but I've never reffed a match at Worlds. Maybe one day. And we're like, wow, how long have you been doing this? Like 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. I'm like, damn. So I almost felt like such a piece of shit, because it's like, I've only done this 3 times. I did East Coast trials, West Coast trials, and the Open, and now I'm reffing on day 2 of the World Championships, which I didn't think was going to happen. I really didn't. I didn't expect to ref at all at Worlds. I thought when I got the invite, it's like, hey, you did well enough to get invited. Maybe you'll do a match or 2, but that's it. I didn't think that it was going to be everything it became, especially when on the second day, Mo made an announcement. He gathered all the refs, all the judges. He's like, I only want 5 people reffing today, and these are the 5 refs. And the first 3 are, Marius, Jarno, and another one of the Finnish guys. And it's like, if you watch any ADCC absolutes, like, these are the guys that ref the absolute match. These are the guys that ref the super fights. Like, you know who they are.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and both Miguel's. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, sorry. I was like, Mo, you said both Miguel's? He's like, both Miguel's. That means you. And I'm like, man, somebody give this guy like a neurological exam. Like, something's wrong with his head. Because I just kept getting, and I just, lost the boat. But it was, let me tell you something, man. At one point, I'm in the center of the mat for the finals match, and 13,000 people. And again, I really feel like ignorance was bliss, right? Like, a lot of these refs, they've done ADCC and they've done things a certain way. And, for better or for worse, you get away with things when you do it, and just when it's just coaches and other competitors. Now, all of a sudden, you have 13,000 people, and, you go to a ref's decision and you raise someone's hand, and it's, yeah, or it's, boo, and you're like, oh, they are booing me. So I was like, I just remember thinking, like, I don't want to get booed.
You got the 13,000 fans. You've got everybody at home watching multiple camera angles, and all eyes are on the match.
Yeah, it was cool because I got to meet a lot of quote unquote celebrities, but I was really excited that I got to meet so many like literally like people in jiu-jitsu that I looked up to when I was coming up, and I'm like, oh my god, like I'm like you're talking to me. Like, there's a picture of me helping Braulio Estima do something on his phone, and I'm like, I don't, like, what am I doing here? And I had met Braulio before, but it was a different atmosphere when you're wearing that shirt that says referee.
Yeah.
But
it was surreal, even from like I can't imagine what it was like for you being that close. Even as a fan, it was insane to see so many people that you just look up to, or you're only used to seeing them on TV or whatever. It was like within 5 minutes of showing up to the arena the night before, I met Marcelo Garcia, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy, And
dude, I'll tell you a cool story. I'm sorry, finish up. My bad.
No, go ahead.
No, keep going, because Marcelo.
Yeah, so meet him, take a picture with him, and like that's within the first 5 minutes. And then the first 5 minutes of the second day, I see, Eddie Bravo and Mackenzie Dern from like 3 feet away.
Yeah, man.
Just crazy.
It was yeah, so I get to be backstage and talk to those guys. And like they're asking questions about matches, and I'm like, listen, guys, like just watch out for this, watch out for that. They're like, hey, good job with that match. Or like, I'm going up to like, some guys like, hey, man, that was a tough match. Like, good job, just keep it up. Then maybe they'll call you for the absolute. And they're like, yeah, all right. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like what am I doing talking to any of these guys? But I remember for the finals, I'm like, I didn't think I was going to be doing a finals match, and I'm standing out there. And Mo tells us, he's like, look, you guys are all earning your keep. Every single one of you is doing a finals match. And he ran how it was going to go. So that, myself and Miguel each got one. And then the Finnish guys got two. Obviously they have more experience.
Yep.
And,
you
I'm
did
like standing
Fiona
out.
and Brianne St. Marie, right?
Yeah. And I did Diego Hayes.
Oh, that's right.
I got the baby shark one too.
Nice.
So I'm standing out there. And 13,000 people and the spotlights and the flames and everything's going off. And there's Bruce Buffer from Curitiba, Brazil, and I'm like, oh my god, like it hits me. And I look up and I see Steph and my wife sitting, second row. And who's in front of my wife? Nate Diaz. She's sitting next to Tom. Behind her is like Mario Lopez. Down the row is, Rogan and Hinchcliffe and that whole crew. And I'm sure even more people, right? Bernardo Faria, all those guys. Everyone's there. And I'm like, I can see this picture. And I look at my wife and she gives me like 2 thumbs up and she goes, this is so cool. And I just look back at her and I shrug my shoulders and I go, what the fuck am I doing here? like this went from me helping out Tom do East Coast trials in Atlantic City to you're doing this on the biggest stage in the world right now at the biggest ADCC ever in front of 13,000 people. And you've done how many matches? So I just remember thinking like, don't fuck this up. And, I did what I had to do. And then, the rest is history. I get a phone call from Mo a couple months later. He's like, I'm going to name you head ref for ADCC America. And I was like, that's fantastic.
That's incredible, man. Were the nerves like crazy bad, or did it all happen so fast that you just were in the moment and didn't even?
I'll tell you right now, for all the other matches, I didn't feel nervous at all. For whatever reason, reffing these matches, I felt very comfortable. Obviously, there's some nerves because you don't want to mess up. You want to make bad calls. You don't want to mess up a reset. But when it got to the finals, and I think it's because like everyone's watching you. You're the only match going. There was a minute where like my vision got real wonky, like zoomed in, zoomed out, zoomed in, zoomed out. And I remember like in my head, like to myself, I was like, get your shit together, you fucking pussy. This is not the place to lose your shit. And like everything got back and I was like, all right, let's go. And it was, I got through it. But, and Tom gave me a real nice compliment the night before. We all went out to eat and get some drinks. And I said goodnight early because, I have to work. Like I'm resting the next day and I like to be rested and I want to do things the right way. And Tom goes, all right, man, good night. Go get some sleep. And I was like, all right, buddy, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And he's like, he grabs me real quick. He goes, hey, come here. I was like, what's up? He's like, listen, I know you're telling everyone, thank you to Tom. Tom set this up for me. And blah, blah. He goes, understand this. All I did was give you the key. You're the one who kicked that motherfucker closed and put a lock on it. You did this. So go out there and do you've done this whole time.
That's awesome.
I was like, thanks, man. So like when that moment came, I was like, you know what? He's right. So it was one of those few times where I was just like, just do what you do. And I did it and it worked out. Thank God.
Well, for me, obviously knowing you, watching you ref, you looked like right at home, like you had been doing it forever. So
yeah, I felt comfortable, man. I just try to do what I would have wanted someone to do for me when I was competing. Like, tell me how much time is left. Tell me the score. I remember at one point, I forget what match it was. Like they weren't doing anything, and I was like, "Listen, guys, if I look up at that table, they're going to tell me to warn you, or you're going to get a stalling. So just do me a favor and start moving because you're boring 13,000 people right now.
That's awesome.
I was like, no one wants to see this dumb shit. Start moving. And, and they did, because I can also tell when the table is going to tell me like, hey, like, give them a warning. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to look. I'm just going to tell you that if I look up right now, they're going to tell me to warn you. So start moving before I have to officially give you a warning.
Yeah. So without throwing any of your fellow referees under the bus, what is your opinion on the match between Craig Jones and Kainan where he got like 8 or 10 stalling penalties?
Dude, so I'll tell you right now, I honestly don't even remember. I don't know who judged that match. I don't know who ref that match. I remember I was sitting next to Marius, who's one of like the main guys. He's actually the guy who refed the Gordon and Galvao match. And he was such a good mentor to me the whole time, like just really helping me with things. Like even when he was yelling at me for dumb shit. I mean, not dumb shit, but like, he was just yelling at me like, like pay attention. And I'm watching the match. He'd always have an answer for something. I'd ask something, he had an answer. I'd ask, he had an answer. Just a wealth of knowledge. And at one point, like I see the match is now like 6 negatives, 7 negatives, 8 negatives. I look at him and I go, hey, what's going on over there? And I'm thinking he's going to have an answer. He looks at me with like a straight face. And I'm like, all right, here comes a good answer. And he goes, I have no fucking idea. I was like, okay, so that's fucked up. No idea what happened with that. No idea. I don't foresee something like that happening again in the future. Yeah. I know some people weren't very happy with it. I know, organizers weren't happy with it. Promoters weren't happy with it. It was, man, I don't know. That was tough to watch, to be honest with you. And I'm glad I wasn't the ref out there.
Yeah.
Because it's the table telling you negative. So I'm glad I wasn't the ref. I'm glad I wasn't the judge. I'm glad I was nowhere near that match.
In the moment when it was happening as a fan, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like he's getting nailed for stalling. And then I, as a coach, I stop and think about it. I'm like, hold on. Like we're 6 minutes in, say, and he's passed Craig's guard twice.
Yeah.
He's mounted him. It's not his fault he can't get a submission from Mao.
Right. He was losing the match at one point because of negatives.
Yeah.
And like he literally had to go back into Craig's guard to pass it to get the win.
Right. Exactly.
Like, it was crazy, but yeah, that was nuts. That was nuts.
The other match that stood out to me, speaking of going out of bounds and letting things go, was the Amy Campo Gabby Garcia match where they're basically halfway up on the ramp for the stage.
Yeah.
that was pretty amazing too.
Yeah. Gabby was pretty pissed about that.
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard this or saw this. Obviously you were busy, but I was in the front row near the corner. Sandy and I were. After that match, Gabby Garcia was sitting like on the cement, basically on the corner of the mat, leaning up against her backpack, and she was pounding beers.
Yeah, I saw that. I remember, like, I think at one point I had to go run upstairs and do something, and I saw her just sitting there pounding beers, and I was like, damn, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was not happy at all. At all.
I mean, I know people love to hate her, but I sort of get it. Like, you're twisted up against a metal ramp and you're on the cement and you're supposed to avoid a guard pass or a submission or whatever. It's like, it's not easy, but you also can't reset these positions, like you say. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's no good answer.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look at that match again, but I'm pretty sure even if like they would have reset when she said they should have reset it, she still would have lost the match. She still would have lost the takedown points. So it sucks, but you gotta keep going. Just don't stop because you think the position needs to get reset. That's why they have the refs and the judges there.
Exactly, and it's not like it was her first time doing ADCCs. She's a veteran. She should know the situation.
Correct.
All right, man. Well, I've taken up a huge amount of your time. I don't even know how long we've been going for, but before we wrap this up, where can my listeners go to follow you, keep up with you, follow your school, all that stuff?
So everything is going to be right there on Instagram. It's at Prof Miguel _BJJ. And they could check us out at the at Tapping In Pat podcast. I believe it's tapping _in _podcast. They can listen to it every week on Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. So if they like this episode and they want to know more about some of the stuff we talked about, we just had our 60th episode, which is kind of wild. We've got like 60 episodes out there right now. But give us a follow. Give us a listen, and take it from there.
Awesome. I appreciate you coming on so much, man, and we will watch you in the East Coast trials coming up.
Yeah, man, can't wait. Thanks for having me, brother. Can't wait to get up to Maine and link up soon.
Yeah, we got to do that soon, man.
All right, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.